Hello, I'm Gabriel Burgos, and today I'm going to be presenting to you the discoveries I found about Discourse communities in La Montaña Moving and Shipping Company from the year 1975, I believe, to 2007 when the company closed under the authority of my father. The company did open under the authority of my grandfather, Jose Burgos Sr., and my father is Jose Burgos Jr. So on the two interviews that will be connected to this video, you will be seeing those two interviews. I did want to start off with just like a little fun thing that I found with the company, actually in my laptop case that I used to bring my laptop to my grandfather to interpret to translate, because he speaks a majority of Spanish. So I just gave it to him in Spanish, and then I used Google Docs to translate it to English, which I'll talk about more about how that is actually part of the Discourse community subject. So this is the business card, which I don't have that great of a camera. It's La Montaña Shipping Incorporated. The locations were in Puerto Rico, New York, and Florida at the time. And yeah, it was in Ivy Lane, which is in the middle of Orlando. So that was fun. It was close. So first, the moving and shipping company itself, a little bit of backstory is that it started from my grandfather, who decided to come from Puerto Rico to America with his wife, who's my grandmother, Delilah Burgos, and she helped him open up a very successful business with her planning and his ideas and thoughts and everything. And basically, they opened up this business by themselves in New York. They bought a yard to put. At the time, they had one trailer, and they had three of their cousins working for them, and then it was them. And their kids would help out sometimes, because my dad was born in 1969 and it was 1975 that the company started. So it was, they were very young. He has two older siblings, but they were very young. So basically, how does it use language? How did La Montaña Moving and Shipping Incorporated use language to function? Okay, well, first of all, the language that was primarily used in the company was actually Spanish instead of English. Which I thought was very interesting. You never really see that in the 70s, but they made it work. To function, they actually hired very close people to their family, very close friends. And that was kind of like a requirement. They never had applications for people. It was very much like an invite. Hey, would you like to work with us? Everything was in Spanish. Documents were in Spanish. Manuals were in Spanish. Kind of to make everybody feel at home is what my grandfather said. Like if they were from Puerto Rico, if they were from the Dominican Republic, if they were from Mexico, if they were from Peru, if they were like those places, they had Portuguese, they had Spanish, and they had English manuals, which I thought was something that was really neat that my grandfather brought to the company. How he used it to survive is the same reason. To get through the times, there was a fire, I believe 1981 is what the interview says. It's 1980 something, and to survive from that, they used their Spanish-speaking skills kind of to like calm the people who had moving supplies and they were moving their boxes and their beds and their delicates and all that kind of things, all their really expensive items that they put into storage with the shipping company, and they used it to survive with the company, to show them, hey, we're just as down to earth as you guys are, and it really wasn't our fault. We're sorry. It did take a while to recover. I believe it took like 5.5 years to recover from that, to get out of debt, but they did eventually do it. How to succeed with this language. They used Spanish to succeed because they targeted audiences. Well, I say audiences, but they targeted clients who were Spanish speaking. They knew that they didn't have a chance of being called La Montaña with the Nye, the Spanish N, which is like an NY sound. To people who didn't really know Spanish, they were like, okay, well, that's a great Spanish restaurant, is what my grandfather told me one time. Somebody said, like, is it a restaurant? And It was like, no, it's a shipping company. So basically, they succeeded because they targeted them. They opened a place in New York and a place in Puerto Rico and a place in Orlando, which they knew would have a large majority of Spanish-speaking people, and at the same time be places that people wanted to move to, which I think was pretty good. They also did use language like codes and emails in Spanish and like all that kind of stuff, just to contact their truck drivers and to contact their clients, and to really let everybody in the loop and give everybody the information that they needed as quickly and efficiently as possible. To thrive, until the company closed, they thrived because their customer service was so excellent, because they did have English speakers for the people who were English. They did have Spanish speakers. They did have Portuguese speakers. They did have a wide diversity of people, allowing them to really experiment with how they wanted to give their customer service, and that actually allowed them to thrive, because in the end they were one of the best rated customer service shipping companies in all of New York City, which a lot of people just move short distances, so they got to do a bunch of short jobs. Actually, one really cool fact is that after the Yankees won the World Series in, I believe, 1999. They won it one of those years, like around there. My dad's company, La Montaña, contracted with them to give them 50% off their move. And into like after they won all this money from winning the World Series, excuse me, a bunch of them moved into mansions, and my dad's company actually moved them into there, which I thought was really, really, really cool. I actually didn't know that. I was wondering how I got a ball that was signed by all of the players at the time. Yeah, so those are the basic questions that I wanted to really touch on. Also, how this helped me become a better writer. My dad and my grandpa both agree. They were very confused at first during the first interview. They kind of didn't see the point of it, especially when I was told them this was for like English and it wasn't for like a cultural thing, or it wasn't for like a family class or a hospitality guest service. They were very like, wow, English, that's not something I'd expect. It's helping me develop as a writer, because it makes me realize that not everyone, and this is what we've talked about in the class as well, not everyone is the audience for everything. When in class, when we mentioned the Sun, the magazine The Sun, it's not something for me. I liked some of the things in it, but then some of it I didn't understand, or some of it I didn't particularly enjoy. So yeah, so it's helped me become a developing writer and an academic writer, because I noticed that maybe I just need to target. I need to find the language and the lexis and the genre and the common goals, and all the rest of the 6 characteristics of my discourse community, of who I'm writing to. Like if I'm writing a comic book, I want to be able to know that there's needing to be multiple exclamation marks, or I understand that if I'm doing a novel and it's a science fiction novel, that it needs to have a bit of a mystery so that people are intrigued. Or if I'm writing an academic piece to teenagers, I need to include some form of something that's interesting to them, which might be like, with how society is nowadays, like a sexual fact about it, be like, wow, that didn't, like, that made me think about that, or a statistical fact about like schools and standardized testing or something like that, that will really make them catch their eye and listen. So that's how it's helped me become a better writer. And I think my grandfather and my dad both agree a lot. They think it's great that you can see an English class that will allow you to experiment with writing, so that you don't just get bored and get through the class, but because since we only have to take 2 English classes in college for at least my major, it's a lifelong lesson. It's not just in becoming a better writer. It's I'm in hospitality management, and it's becoming a better guest service provider. It's becoming a better friend to friends, to becoming a better family member to my family, and that's something that I thought was really unique about this project, because it allowed me to really look into what my family went through and how they dealt with such challenges, just because they spoke a different language, or just because they used codes for their truck driving that were never existed because they couldn't understand the codes that they already had because they started from scratch. So those are all things that I really learned, that I enjoyed learning, and those were my common goals with that. So in conclusion, I learned that a discourse community was a group of people who are working together to sorry about that, who are working together to have a common goal. They have a genre. They have Alexis. They don't always have the car, but they have Alexis. They have a mechanism of intercommunication. They have ways of communicating it, and they have efficiency and experience, which is the last thing that I'll touch on. Is that the experience is just based on, at least in this company, over the time span of my grandfather owning the company to my father owning the company, which is, this is the same company. I don't know if I've mentioned that part already. It is the same company and it is the same job in just two different timelines, well, time periods, which are about 20 years off each. It allowed them to really see that experience was based on strictly if you knew how to speak Spanish, that was as much as you were going to get for definite, and besides that, everything was always a learning experience. And that's another thing that I learned for this, for writing, is that everything's always going to be a learning experience. Even if you do it 50 years, you'll still be learning from it in the end. So thank you very much, and I hope that you enjoyed this presentation.